Continuing my once-a-week anti-sandbagging race during the off-season, this is race number 5. I thought last week's race was the toughest pack I've ever been in. This week's pack was older, and they were significantly stronger. There were 15 starters and 14 finishers. Of the 14 that finished, there was one 20-something, one 30-something. Everyone else that declared their age, except for 1 or 2 people, were in their 40s and 50s. I am 66. A cycling community, this is Steve Grusis, the Cycling Greek. Right off the bat, this happens. I'm starting to think, maybe I should just drop out and not do a video on this. I never raced in an A category, but this is what I would imagine what would happen if I did. I was going as strong as I could relative to the gap I needed to fill and the length of the race, but I was not in pain enough to where I wanted to drop out. I'm sure that would be coming soon. I saw they were bunching up a bit, and so I just kept at it. I was hoping to get on this guy's wheel, but he was weakening a bit, so I decided I better just go after these guys. And go after these guys meaning just keep on doing what I'm doing, and I hope they slow down so we can connect. If you're familiar with my videos, you'll know that I tend to last about half the race, a little past it, and then I'll drop off the main pack, and then either solo or survive with anybody else that's dropped off. Now, this was in danger of happening on the first lap. I'm just about to make contact with him, and unfortunately I'm making contact with him on the bricked climb, and this is the hardest part of this crit course for me. But they're slowing up. It's not that I'm speeding up to get to them, but they're slowing up enough so I'm able to make contact. This old guy, me, has outputted a lot of energy, and I'm not even done with the first lap. And now I'm hoping that they still stay bunched up, but there's people in the front, there's a couple guys in the front pushing the pace, which means everyone else is going to be pushing the pace, which may mean that I'm going to find myself at the very back again trying to hang on for dear life. Now, I don't want to imply that I am much stronger than what I'm showing right now, but I'm thinking that there's a couple of very strong people in the front, and that everyone else is also real strong, but not as strong as those guys, but strong enough to hang on to their wheel. So when they go, other strong ones will go after them, and more strong ones will follow them, and things will get stretched out. Now, we're on the rolling section, and I am in severe deficit. When I was young Cycling Greek, I can back off for just a few seconds, and then I'd be fine. But I am old Cycling Greek now, so I need more than a few seconds to back off, and I'm just not able to back off with these guys. We're going to be heading over to the start of the second lap, and with that, we'll get a power-up. And I'm thinking about that power-up right now. Usually I don't, but now I am. And I'm hoping it's something that will help me survive up that cobbled climb. This is the last week of my training block. So I'm not feeling as fresh coming into this race as I did, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now, that is not saying that if I was fresh, things would have been different on that first lap, because they would not have been that much different. I did have a good warm-up. I warmed up for about 50 minutes, and being the old guy that I am, I need a long warm-up so I can start my warm-up nice and slow. So no problem there. When the power-up was finally determined, I saw that it was a burrito. So that's like a step above having nothing to me. Since I was in the pack, I decided to activate it and hope for a better one next time. One of the cool unexpected things about this race was the rider that's behind me. Now, I don't know who it is. His name is Travis Sayendel. But we have the same uniforms, so it's as if we're teammates. Of course, that would imply that I was a functional teammate for him, and that's not the case. But it was pretty cool to see. For a moment, I had a little bit of happiness during this race. While you are all getting the false impression that we're all bunched together so I get to rest on somebody's wheel, that's not the case, I assure you. Let's talk about my training block. The main purpose of my training during this off-season is to get stronger on the flats, time trials, breakaways, that sort of thing. After taking a bit of time to get my body reacquainted with endurance, the focus of my training block, at least on the bike, was tempo intervals. The reason why I focus on that is because I don't have a lot of time to train, especially since I'm still working and the daylight's getting less and less. Tempo work is a great way for increasing your mitochondrial density, and also a great way to increase sport-specific strength, especially and in prep for that my next training block is going to focus on sweet spot intervals. Jumping back to the action on the screen, when we left the cobbled climb, The pack didn't slow down at the top of it. They kept the pressure on, and we were pretty much lined out, and we're still lined out coming into the rollers right before the start-finish line. Usually on that section, I apply power on the uphill and dial back on the downhill, and then I do that all the way through each of the rollers. Now I'm applying power all the time, just so I can stay connected. If I try to finesse it to save a little energy and to get a little recovery, I may find myself off the back. I can't take that chance. I'm already in deficit, and just being here is a wonderment for me right now. I'm hoping to make it to the halfway point with everyone else, and that'll be at the end of lap 4, but I don't know. I look at the graphics on the top, and I see I'm about to hit the 1/4 mark. As we pass this start-finish line, again, I'm focused on the power-up that I'm going to be getting, that I hope I'm going to be getting. The best one I can hope for, of course, is going to be the feather power-up to make it a little lighter on the climb. The next one that I'd be looking for would be the tractor. Let's jump forward to where we're about to enter the cobbled climb. I'm in pretty good position. About halfway mark up this section, I hit the feather power up, so that'll get me to the top, a little after the top, with the feather still in effect. I'm starting to think I'll be able to get through this climb, but then people are starting to pass me. They're really punching it at the front, and now I'm at the back, and again, I am in trouble. Best I can do is keep pushing the wattage and hope that those in front of me will eventually slow down and I can reconnect. This one is a massive attack. Now you'll notice at the bottom of the graphics on the right, that green triangle, that is the cone of shame. But that rider's been dragged way off to the back, and here I am, last person pretty much in this group. I have somebody there with me, and maybe there's someone else. I'm going to try and hang on to this person, because it may be that he and I are going to be a two-man chase group, or a two-man off the back group. And that is Chase Ellingsworth from the US. He's actually the second youngest rider at 34. So that makes him a little more than half my age. Also making contact with us is Tim Denning, 48 years old, also from the US. Taking stock of the situation, it's not even the end of the third lap, and I lost contact with the main group. Now, I have the benefit of being with two others, but I am so tired right now. I'm hoping that these guys at least slow down a bit so I can get a bit of a rest. But our wattage is still up there. These guys are pretty strong. I'm hoping, since we're all off the back, that they'll at least dial down so I can at least get a little bit of a rest. The only guy that's behind us is about a minute 4 behind us, and he is the guy with the cone of shame. To get the cone of shame, that rider would have had to exceed the upper limit wattage for this category for 5 continuous minutes, as defined by Zwift. Not only does he get the cone of shame, but there's extra drag put on his avatar, so that's why he's way off the back. Pretty much, it's that person in the back, it's the pack at the front by now 9 and 10 seconds, and it's us 3. Let's jump back to my training block. I do my intervals on Tuesdays. I do this Zwift Crest on Thursdays. On Saturdays, I do group ride where I try to focus on endurance. And lately I've been doing a pretty good job with that because I have not been able to keep up with my training partners. And that is because of the squats and deadlifts I've been doing during the off season. On Sundays I also do endurance. I ride about an hour to meet a pretty fast group. I hang with them till I get dropped, which is usually pretty darn quick, and then I ride home for about an hour. If I was just doing the riding schedule, I'd be fine. The challenge I'm finding is because of the weightlifting I'm doing. Not only because of the squats and deadlifts, but the upper body work too. There are 2 factors coming into play. The first one is the squats and deadlifts and its effects on my legs. And the second is the overall fatigue of doing all that lifting when I'm also doing the type of schedule that I'm doing on the bike. For my upper body, I have a particular split that I use, but I don't do it every day now. I was doing that for a while, but not now because it was just dragging on me too much. If I need to take an extra day of no lifting, that's what I'll do, because I gotta watch the fatigue factor. And if you're not familiar with my channel, I am subject to AFib. In a later video, I'll go over the changes I've made to my squats and deadlifts. Jumping to the middle of the cobbled climb on the 7th lap, Denning is almost a second behind us. Ellingsworth chooses now to attack. Now the rider you see in the orange there, that's the cone of shame guy, so we're lapping him. I'm near the end of my limit. I love to be able to get up to Ellingsworth and leave Denning behind, but I got to slow up a bit. Denning catches up, and I'm just trying to get on somebody's wheel. It's a lap and a half to go, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay connected to the other two. I'm sure the other two are hurting close to or as much as I am. There's been attacks before, and we've been able to reconnect, but this attack has been the biggest so far. Looking at the graphics on the right, Ellingsworth is close to 4 watts per kilogram. Denning was chasing, is a little over 3, and I finally got myself back up to 3 watts per kilogram. So I'm riding the Cone of Shame guy's wheel and hoping that he drags me up to the other two. Even though being in the chase group has brought my average wattage for this race down, I always felt like I was in deficit because of that very first lap. So here I am. I love to just stop the pain, but I have this rule: never give up. You can only give out. I'm not even on the Cone of Shame guy's wheel. I've never noticed this before, but if you get the Cone of Shame, then you can't see your watts per kilogram in the graphics on the right side. Well, that makes sense. As we start the very last lap, those guys slowed up enough, and so now we're all together. So I look like I'm putting in a little bit of a dig, but that's only going to last for a little bit. These guys are just right on my wheel. So now I'm thinking, how can I play this? I'm here with them. I can still get dropped, but I'm going to do what I can to stay connected, and I'm going to do what I can to try and beat these guys at the line. And these guys are going to do the same thing. Ellingsworth puts in another dig to try and get some separation. Fortunately, I'm able to stay connected with him. Kind of makes sense since he's 34. He has that ability to do that. Me, I have maybe just 1 bullet left, if that. And again, I can still get dropped from these guys before we get to the line. I noticed that I have a feather power-up. So I'm thinking that my move can come right at the cobbled climb. I don't know what the others have for power-ups, if at all, so that could be the place where I make my move. Well, that being stated, as I caught the other two and they slowed, I put in an attack. The Cone of Shame person went with me, which I see now that she's female, so good on her. So I'm going, and I'm hoping that the others are caught out, and they're not. You know, I see them come up, and I'm thinking, oh man, so I just used a whole bunch of energy. So now all I'm thinking about is being connected with these guys. And here we hit the bricks. So here is where I put the power up, and I decide I'm going to put in another attack, and I start to go. Unfortunately, the others too are also putting in some wattage there, so I'm not really making much distance at all. I get to the top and I'm just reamed. That was my move for the win, or at least for the group sprint. Obviously during the off season I don't work on repeatability, and in fact this race is the only chance where I have a chance to work on repeatability. So the chance of me being able to gather enough strength to do another effort within less than a half a lap to go is pretty nil. Still, I'm catching up to these guys. They're probably slowing up to gather energy as they hit the rollers, and that'll be my chance. So I have maybe 1 more bullet in me, and the question will be, when do I shoot that gun? I'm hurting so much that I didn't notice that Denning used his ghost power-up. Ellingsworth is behind me. I'm hoping the reason is that he's getting tired as opposed to him getting a better position. So Denny comes back from the ghost, so he is pretty tired. He wasn't able to really take advantage of that. But here I am at the back. I'm trying to get on the wheel. I have that 1 last bullet, so when you look at my insert in the lower left-hand corner, I'm starting to stand. I should not have been standing so soon because I'm only good for about 5 pedal strokes, and I got to sit down because that's it. So I said there were 14 finishers. Well, I'm number 14. It's now the next night that I'm putting this video together, and that race took a lot out of me. Usually these crits give me a little freshness the next day, and so I'm really fresh for the group ride on Saturday, but I was not feeling fresh today. Tomorrow's workout is going to be endurance pace lining. So we'll be doing something like 1-minute pulls and staying around 20 miles an hour or so. Not something that's hideous, but we'll be doing this for about 3 hours, so it's going to wear on us. I hope you enjoyed this video and got something out of it. As always, remember, comment, like, subscribe. The Cycling Greek.